Hello and welcome back to another episode of You Want to Do What. Today we've got Euan Davies on. He's the founder at Sliderfy. Hi, Euan.
Hello.
How are we today?
Yeah, mate, very, very well. The sun's out. It's been an absolute belting Monday. It's been the busiest Monday I've had in a long, long time, probably this year easily.
Wow.
So I'm feeling really good, really, really good, mate. How are
Good
you?
stuff. Yes, all good, mate. Good Monday. Like you said, it was actually light for the first time when I got up today. I get up really early and it was just starting
Yeah.
to get light. And it's so rewarding when that happens.
Yeah. I think I have, seasonal affect disorder. I really, really do because I get, in the summer, in the winter months, obviously, it can get really tough, especially when you're selling a product that's pretty much designed for tropical weather or being outside. It can get pretty lonely in those December months. But to see it, getting lighter again is amazing. And obviously, I play sport as well, so it's always nice to have. Saying that, the last week's been dreadful, but it's nice to have kind of brighter mornings and evenings as well. So yeah.
Definitely. Euan, do you want to tell everyone a bit about what you do, mate?
Yeah, of course. So I own a company called Sliderfy, and we create branded sliders for businesses and sports clubs. And that is basically the elevator pitch. The whole point of the company is to kind of take logos and brand colors or sport club colors or even kit patterns and create a really unique piece of kit which kind of matches really nicely into existing merchandise or kits. We work with kind of clubs and companies in the UK, France, and Australia where we sell. The majority of orders come from those three countries, but we can sell all over Europe as well. So that's what we do.
So would you say you're in the merchandising kind of industry, that space?
Yeah, well, I would say that we're building to be, and we currently are probably classed as a direct consumer brand. So you will get members of sports clubs that are representatives that will want to buy custom sliders, and they will come to us above anyone else because we specialize in it, and we kind of make our whole point being that we can create them better than anyone else. But then on the business side of things, I definitely say we probably are a merchandising company in the sense that we are dealing with kind of much bigger wholesale orders to supply them. But it's hard to call us like an out and out merchandising company because if I got asked to produce another product like tote bags, I would say no. So I don't know if we fall directly into like being a merchandising company. I'd always say that we're trying to be the biggest custom slider brand in the world. So we're just a custom slider brand. That's what we do.
So how did this all start then? You've gone down this entrepreneurial journey, but where did this start? Was it from a young age you wanted to have your own business? Was it a university you picked this up? Where did it all come from?
Not at all, mate. I was never one of those guys like hustling in the playground selling Haribos. I never had this really young entrepreneurial like energy that you could really tell and spot for a mile off that I was going to go be a business owner. It really happened for me because I was working in a job that I really wasn't happy in a company I wasn't really happy in, and I couldn't really figure out what it was or why I wasn't enjoying it. Firstly, I think I wasn't getting paid enough in that position. And also, you're working really closely. This was a startup, the company I was working in. You're working really closely with like your senior management team or even the founder because it's such a small team. And you're hearing about how much money he's making. And then you're kind of trying to do the math, being like, I only see you a few days a week. I'm working what seems like forever always, and I'm walking home with nowhere near as much money as you have. So I was kind of like, this is bullshit. I'm not really built for this. I'm not built to like make someone else rich. So I was like, I want to be that guy. I want to be the shot caller. And I want to have my own kind of financial freedom. So I started Sliderfy whilst I was working in this digital marketing agency, which was really, really good for me, actually. Like, I look back and I'll talk about it, and anyone listening will think that I didn't enjoy it. But I would not be where I am with Sliderfy without the skill set that I kind of picked up from that role, but also without the experiences that I had with this CEO founder and my manager as well. Those guys were really, really you don't want to say like role models, but I did like their kind of entrepreneurial energy and how they were really super driven to kind of make it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that wasn't like benefiting me at all, they were really taking care of themselves. But I got a bit of that rubbed off on me as well, and I was like, I'm going to go and take care of myself because everyone else seems to be taking care of themselves. So I started this as a side hustle. From a really dingy, nasty flat in Bristol. And then the pandemic hit like a bus in like March 2020. I got laid off, so I was made redundant from my role. And it turned out to be the best thing that ever happened, right? Because I was faced with a decision, which was I can either go and apply in a failing job market where everyone's shutting their doors because no one wants to hire anyone at the start of what we didn't know at the time, but was going to be one of the biggest, the biggest pandemic that we've experienced. So I was forced to kind of double down on Sliderfy, and ever since I've done that, I haven't looked up since then. And that was March 2020, and it's just been an absolute roller coaster since then. A roller coaster of really hard work and loads of victories. And I've just learned so much since doing it. And I mean, if anyone follows me on LinkedIn, you'll see how much I post about kind of owning your own business is definitely, even if it fails, it's one of the best things you can do, because you will learn so much in a year that I would never have learned if I'd stayed in that role. So yeah, that's kind of how we got to where we are now, really.
So you mentioned, you were in a job before you started this, and you mentioned you picked up a load of skills and lots of learnings that you managed to bring forward into Sliderfy. Would you recommend to somebody who's thinking about maybe going down the entrepreneurial route, or whether they just want to get some experience working in some sort of startup arena?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think working in a startup is super valuable. I'd probably recommend working in, like, if you have a choice, working in a VC backed one or something with a lot of cash that can take care of you. I think one of the bigger issues with getting hired by a startup that doesn't necessarily have a lot of funding is that you aren't necessarily going to be looking at the most dramatic like salary increases or things like that. So I 100% think it's valuable. I think you're going to have conversations or be brought into conversations at a younger age that you probably would never be exposed to if you're working in a more established company. And you really get to experience kind of the volatility that the business world can throw at you. And I couldn't recommend it more, I think. And you see a lot of people, I see a lot of people on my LinkedIn feed in my network make the move away from their corporate jobs at big four firms and into startups, around the age of 25, because they are searching for something a bit more exciting and a bit more, challenging.
Now, Sliderfy is quite an interesting concept. Obviously, we've sort of spoken about what it is, but how did you come up with that, and where did you get the drive to keep this going, and what's the future looking like for yourself?
Yeah, so I'm going to give a shout out again to one of my previous managers at the startup I was working at. He would always use this term. He was a sales manager. He would say, it's in our pitch, we would say it's really easy to dominate a niche. So always recommend that people try and niche down in their marketing, because once you've identified your audience, you really know what the problem is you're solving. You can really start to make yourself a bit of a leader in that industry. And I always wanted to go into like a niche business, I think, because it was because of that. It's this idea that if you really try and own a space and get known within that space as the leader for that product, you're going to have a lot of people search for you and come find you because you really specialize in it. So that was a really attractive part of why I wanted to launch a niche company, because it is niche, but also it's the fact that, like, I'm massive into my sport, and the barrier to entry to setting up one of these companies that sells merchandise is not really that high as it was probably 20 years ago. In terms of like being able to find a really high quality manufacturer, it's really not that difficult nowadays. But there are a lot of difficulties with sliders in particular. And I think that's why it's not a very common product that you'll find in merchandising agencies. And I know it isn't, because they all ask me to supply them at reseller rates, because none of them have been able to figure it out. And it's because it's a really fiddly product. So it was kind of like a desire to have a business that was really, really niche down. that people would, that I could then build a brand around and say, we're doing really, really cool stuff over here. We're only doing custom ciders. So all I have to worry about in my marketing is just putting out the message that we create the best quality, the best designs, we have the best service, and it's really easy when it's just one product. So yeah, that's kind of the thought process behind Sliderfy. And then also it's just I lived in Nike Benassis at uni, absolutely lived in them, mate. Like, catch me in Nike Benassis with some white Nike socks, and that'd be just me shuffling around uni in them. So it's really like a product that I can endorse. It's a product that I have made a part of my wardrobe. And also you can be so creative with this product. Like, the strap is literally a blank canvas. You can put any design, any logo, we can do pretty much anything with it. And I really like to push the boundaries of what we have on the strap. I like to encourage people to get creative with it. And I think a job that allows me to be creative every single day, which is one that I have, I'm so grateful for, because I think a lot of people desire to have like some sort of creative outlet and not just be stuck in the spreadsheets 24/7. So yeah, that's kind of where it kind of all came from, and the thought process. And then where's it going? Well, I've said it before in this interview that I really do just want to be the global slider provider. I want everyone to know that we create the best sliders out there, and that any brand that wants to create their own branded slider, any sports club or sports team that wants to collaborate with us to create a high quality, unique piece of kit in the form of sliders, we are open to having conversations with and working with. And that will always be the core message of what we're trying to build at Sliderfy.
So your skill set now as an entrepreneur obviously has to be incredibly wide ranging. There's loads of different parts you have to dive into as an entrepreneur. But going a bit back to your journey in the sort of marketing world, what kind of skills did you take from that experience that have allowed you to build this brand?
Yeah, so I was working specifically in SEO, selling SEO as a digital marketing service. For those that don't know, SEO is kind of just like search engine optimization. So trying to improve websites ranking on Google through the means of increasing their web speed, or basically looking at what Google algorithmically is suggesting are the best practices and trying to implement them across your website so that people can find you more organically through search terms that you're looking for. So we rank organically top. It's no surprise because it's our background. We rank top for custom sliders, custom sports sliders, sports sliders for teams, sliders for teams. We rank top in the UK, France, and Australia for all of those search terms. So anyone trying to Google us, you'll find us at number one. And that helps us obviously get business. But also I did, I sold website development services. So me and my business partner, who I can't believe it's taken this long for me to actually mention that I have a business partner that I run this with. She's very selfish of me. But we built the website ourselves and he did most of that. But we built Sliderfy to where it is off of £300. It only cost us £300 to set it up. And the reason that we were able to do it for such an affordable price is we had the skill set in website development, SEO, and paid search management, which I was also learning about whilst working at my previous job, to manage it all ourselves and actually begin to scale this business before we even had to look at getting professional help. And what you'll find with a lot of business owners or people that want to start their own business is they will maybe come from a more traditional background and they'll think, oh, great, I've got a bit of money now reserved. I want to run my own business. I want a bit of financial freedom and flexibility. And they'll go into this world of digital advertising with very little experience. And if you're not one of those guys that has the ability to go and learn these things by yourself, by upskilling, looking on YouTube, Googling things, being really, resourceful, you're probably going to struggle, and you're probably going to have to pay someone a lot of money to help you kind of get this business off the ground from a digital marketing perspective, and getting it in front of the right people and making sure that you're spending or not spending loads of money on acquisition, which, is going to kill a business in its startup phase that doesn't have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of pounds behind it in investment. So yeah, having that kind of background has been massively invaluable. I'd advise anyone that is not necessarily looking at going to university, but is looking at starting their own business, or what are the skills that a business owner needs in the 21st century, it's 100% digital marketing skills. If you can learn those, and if you can learn how to put a product in front of a buyer online and make sure that everything's optimized, the landing page is optimized, your ads are optimized, the copy's optimized. These are skill sets that are going to make you an incredibly valuable asset to other businesses if someone's hiring, but also in your own business. If you can do all of those things, you're putting yourself in a really good position to succeed in the business world.
You mentioned there a really interesting point that we always talk about, and it's university versus going straight into work. What's your take on it?
It's really interesting. So I went to university. I studied sociology at University of Bristol, and I absolutely loved it. But not just the university experience. I absolutely loved my course. It allowed me to continue to critically think, which I think is, again, one of the most valuable things that anyone can learn. And if we can take anything from education and my degree, it's that ability to look at situations and understand how much more nuanced they are than just black and white. And that's been a really valuable situation. That's been a really valuable asset for me, whether it's in sales or making business decisions. It's recognizing that situations or negotiations are far more nuanced and trying to understand really at the core of what people want. Like, what is the purpose? What does this person want from this deal? How can we find a way for people, a way for us to both win in this situation? So I find that university has helped me in that degree. But then, like I said, you don't necessarily have to go to university. If you don't have an idea of what you want to study, there's so many skills that you can learn yourself, like digital marketing skills that can make you really, really valuable. In a year's time, you could learn all of these things that I've mentioned: copywriting, landing page building, website development, SEO, paid ads management. You can learn all this stuff at a fraction of the price that it costs you to go to university. University does open doors, but I think in the next 5 years, we'll be looking back at the kind of from 2005 to 2022, where we were kind of telling people you have to go to get to university to get a degree. It's the be all and end all. You won't get a job otherwise. I think that dialogue or that kind of messaging will massively change. So yes, go to university if you want to, if you have the luxury of being able to go, because it's a privilege to be able to go. But do you need to go to university to be a successful entrepreneur? Absolutely not. And I know plenty of people that didn't go to university that have been successful, but I know plenty of guys that did go to university and have also been successful. So I don't think it's particularly one way or the other, but it's, is it worth spending 35 to 40,000 pounds on a degree? I don't know. It depends on what the degree is, I guess. That's what I would say.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good take on the argument. For you though, what do you think are some really critical personality traits that are needed for an entrepreneur?
I think you've got to be incredibly durable, mentally durable. I think one of the best and I'm not sure this is a personality trait, but this is something that I try and live by, is try not to get too high when you have a victory and try not to get too low when things seem like everything's burning around you. Having a real level head and trying to absorb these problems or these successes, absorb them, take them in, process them, and then move forward, moving forward, whether it's using that kind of energy, that momentum that you've got from that event, and just trying to transfer that into something that is putting, one foot in front of the other and continuing to move forward either way. Because one thing as a business owner, especially in your startup years, when you're kind of building these systems in your business, I think it's so important that you, are able to take all that. You'll get a lot of negative feedback, or a lot of things will go wrong that you never could have seen going wrong unless you'd actually, done it yourself. But because you're doing it for the first time, it's you're getting this kind of feedback in real time. So it's being able to take that and move forward with it. That's really one of the most valuable things that a business owner can have, or someone that wants to be an entrepreneur can have. What else? There's there's plenty of other things, and I'm sure I'm lacking in plenty of them. But I think one of the ones that I really have is that ability to want to be under pressure as well, because you by signing up to this kind of career, you're saying, I'm happy being accountable for the consequences of this business, and that's a big responsibility that I think a lot of people overlook if you don't run a business yourself. And for me, I want those situations. I want to be in those negotiations. I want to be in those tough conversations. I want to build things. And yeah, I think another thing is wanting to build something. It's not enough to want the prestige of being like a business owner and all the benefits or perceived social benefits that come with, oh, I'm my own boss, I run my own business, I've got this amount of staff. You have to really want to build something and keep building that thing, because it's so competitive out there that you need to have this kind of endless energy to be able to keep up with what is inevitably a really competitive space. Because if you take Sliders, for example, we're competing, especially for these bigger deals from much bigger companies. They're sourcing multiple different products from multiple different manufacturers. So it's about offering the best service, being the quickest to reply, adding the most value, making sure that your quotes are competitive, that they are matching the market value of things. Because these guys with these big budgets, they know lots about what things cost and what they want to pay for it, because they're big brands. They can kind of dictate the price. So you have to want to be competitive. I think they're the really, really important traits that I look for actually in people that I'm hiring, but also that I have found have benefited me through this kind of journey.
And for you, what's been the biggest positive so far on this journey?
Just the lessons, the constant learning. It's the one thing I was not prepared for, and the speed that these lessons come in, and that you are learning about things. It also teaches you massively how the school system is so broken with regards to what it teaches kids in secondary school.
Yeah, 100%.
Because you're learning, so you're hearing these things for the first time, like VAT or imports and duties, taxes, or all of this other stuff, like running payroll or pensions. And you're having to figure all this stuff out. No one's teaching you in school how to set up a pension or how to transfer your pension over. Or, it's just the lessons. The most valuable thing to me has been learning, and this is the one thing that I would really say is good about starting your own business, is you will learn so much. It's crazy how much you'll learn in the first year, 2 years, 3 years. And I just think if you have a product or a service that you really believe in, that you think you can make work, just do it, because you will learn so much more in that time than sitting around doing your day job, going through the motions. That's probably the biggest takeaway and benefit I've had.
And on the flip side of that, what would be some negatives of this journey so far?
Yeah, so we tend to avoid the negatives, right? Don't we? Especially as people that post on LinkedIn, there's no one really wants to talk necessarily about all the shouting matches that you have with people, all the tough conversations that you have where if you're letting someone go, or if you're trying to teach someone in a tough way how they can improve. There's a lot of emotions, especially in a startup, when it's all felt so close to home, right? Because a lot of the time you can't take a salary or things like that because you're investing so much more into the business. I mean, we decided that we were going to simultaneously grow this company in the UK, in France and Australia at the same time, which was just a crazy decision. And if you asked anyone, and also if you asked me to do it again, I'd probably say no, because we have had to sink so much money into expansion that it's been financially it's a massive risk and a huge it can hit you really hard when you realize that you're taking these kind of risks in the hope that you're going to be the biggest customer-sided company in the world. That constant imposter syndrome as well, where you're kind of worrying, am I making the right decisions? Do I have the experience to be here? to be responsible for all these people's jobs, because, you know, when you start hiring people as well, there's a lot of pressure that comes on. But, you know, I come back to it. That's what I love. I love the pressure situations. I love being accountable. I love art, and it's to my detriment, I don't know, but I was even sending out emails, like replies to emails, late last night. I had a customer come back to me being like, "Stop working on Sundays," jokingly, just like, "Stop working. Like you shouldn't be replying to me within 5 minutes of receiving my email at 9:30 on a Sunday evening." But I love it, and that's kind of it. So there are obviously negatives. There's a lot of pressure. And it's not always safe financially. You know, you don't always feel like everything's going to be okay, and it can really feel like you're drowning. But that's kind of the thing that I'm looking for at the moment. I've really enjoyed about running a business is making those big decisions to make it work. So yeah, that's what I'd say maybe the negatives are.
And you mentioned it a bit earlier, but what would be the two biggest factors you look for when hiring people, maybe?
Yeah, so I think number one is like, just be coachable. Like, I want to work with people that bring a lot of energy, but also want to learn, want to improve, and eventually, like, you know, want to go off and probably do their own thing. Like, I'm a real realist when it comes to hiring, that I recognize not everyone's going to be around forever. So I want people that can learn quickly, that want to learn other things outside the scope of their role, especially because in a startup, I handle so many different things, from the marketing side, the people side, the sales side. I want a person that is going to join us to be really hungry for information and hungry to get better themselves. And I think that is honestly the single most important thing that you should look for hiring, is someone that really is like interested in learning and being coached and fitting into systems. And I also think probably loyalty as well, someone that you can trust when you're hiring, or that you believe you can trust when you're hiring them to do a good job by you, but also kind of, you know, fit in and respect kind of what you're trying to do as a business owner as well, and have an understanding of it. They're two really important things. And just like hunger as well. But it depends what you're hiring for, right? If I want a sales guy, I want him to be super hungry to impress, to improve himself, to go after and want to close as many deals as possible, because that's his bread and butter. He does sales. He wants to be communicating with people. He wants to get that dopamine hit every time he sends out an invoice. That's the hunger that I want in a sales guy. If it's a more technical guy that's working in marketing, I'm going to have a much more rigorous interview process focused around technical skills, data analysis, stuff like that. I'll be looking at real numbers guys that are quantitative, you know, workers that have the ability to kind of understand the numbers side of things, which is not my strong suit. So it's like hiring people that complement you in ways. So yeah, I think that's kind of how I approach hiring at Sliderfy.
And would you still go into this and do it all again with everything you know now?
Yeah, mate, 100%. It's been an overwhelmingly positive experience. It's been an absolute like battle. I won't lie. I've not looked up for over 2 years. I'm just treading water, but every single month we're getting more and more customers. We're getting more and more messages coming in cold. We're getting, more and more interest. We're collaborating with bigger and bigger influencers and companies. So it's only been really positives. It's probably why I struggled on your negative question quite a bit, because I've lived in that world of kind of not being happy with my life. I did that for 18 months, my last job. So I would do it again in a heartbeat, because it's just been like incredible. And I think I'm lucky in a sense that I've been able to do it. But when you look at how much you learn, how much I've learned from it, I'm just a completely different bloke now compared to that loser that was working in that job before. So yeah, in a heartbeat, mate.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about your journey. It's been really, really interesting to hear. I think you've been really honest about the whole journey. So thank you so much.
Yeah, mate. Well, trying to be transparent out here, but haven't done many podcast, so it's nice to be able to speak. I think especially after a long old day, it's good to chew the fat and just be able to talk about the journey. And if anyone listens, and it hopefully inspires other people to take the leap if they're in the position to do so. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Thank you. And where can people find you and find Sliderfy?
Yeah, well, yeah, Google it. Sliderfy, you'll be able to find us. We'll come up top, as I've mentioned. You can find us at Sliderfy on most socials: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok. We're everywhere. We're absolutely everywhere. That's the plan, to be on all platforms and available all the time. So that's where you can find us.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Euan.
No, cheers, man. Have a lovely evening.